What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets. For episode 49, we'll be breaking down the Atlantic Division. So, watch out for episode 50. Who knows what's going to happen on that one? Before we get into the Atlantic Division, let's introduce the other co-host here, Franco. How we doing out in Philly?
Doing great. Just got back from my kids' soccer practice, and now I'm ready to break it down, and I'm ready for the season to start, man. Let's get this going.
Yeah, completely agree here. Betzky, how about you?
Yeah, doing good. We got a new family member, Ned the dog. I'll post some pictures on my Twitter. So if you want dog content, make sure to give me a follow.
Yeah, I think everyone enjoys some dog content. I've never heard any. There's no real complaints out of anyone if you're posting pictures of your pet.
Except for crazy cat ladies, maybe.
Oh yeah. Can't discount those.
And like maybe like full reptile people, not people that are like into reptiles and other animals, but like
snake
solely,
people.
Yeah, like cry when your snake passes type.
Yeah, you can't trust those people.
No,
you can't trust this.
Sorry if you're
snake
one,
people.
Franco.
Yeah. Well, we just lost some people, but I'm sorry. I'll stand by that statement.
The pet hot takes coming in.
Yeah, right. We haven't even gotten to the actual division yet. With that being said, let's get into it. We'll start with the Boston Bruins here. Interesting team here. Last year, kind of didn't really think they'd do much here. Obviously, we saw kind of injuries to start the season. McAvoy was out. Miraculous return kind of within 2 weeks too. Marchand was scheduled to be out till December. Returns pretty much a month into the season too, and they go on this tremendous run, only to losing the first round of the Florida Panthers. And we talked about that too in terms of the snowball effect of all it took was Pittsburgh losing a game to Chicago at the end of the season to get Florida in the playoffs, to knock Boston out, and then to go on and make it to the Stanley Cup. So pretty crazy series of events. But yeah, I guess looking at this team now too, a lot of old faces, two kind of staples of this team gone. Bergeron, Krejci gone. Marchand now gets the seat. Seems bright. There's a lot of people debating that, but it seems like he's kind of been that second in line guy for a while. I'm happy he gets it. So we'll see how he kind of does with that role. But I think he's pretty much one of the last remaining pillars on this team that we've seen for so long here. So I'm certainly expecting a little bit of a turnover in the next few years. In addition to those two, they lost Clifton, Orlov, Hall traded, Foligno traded, Riley traded. Interesting lineup looking at this forward core, Betzky. I know we looked at this before, but their center depth is awful.
I think it's the worst in the league, right? There's no way anyone is worse than this.
Yeah, you have Clifton jumping up to the first line here, or Coyle, jumping up to the second line here. He was their third, fourth line center last year. Pavel Zacha is now in between JVR and Pasternak on the top line.
And they've kind of been able to run some weird centers with Pasta before Krejci came back, because he was kind of out of the NHL up until last season.
Yeah.
So, I think Pasta's played with Coyle before, but, that was on a line behind Bergeron, Marchand, and DeBrusk. This is going to be fairly easy to match up against their center depth. And the third and fourth line have seemingly look like AHL lines outside of Milan Lucic, who, gosh, I don't know where he's at health-wise. Frederick's a nice piece, but man.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad in Boston, Franco. I know we talked about their D-core too, of at least being somewhat intact and kind of manageable, but this team looks like they're headed for a complete rebuild, whether it's next year or the year after that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that you're going to hang your hat on if you're a Boston fan, right? You're going to say at least our D-core and our goaltending still looks damn good. So maybe, kind of like you said before we got on here, this is an under team now. We look for them to try to shut teams down instead of play that run and gun style. And like you said, if they try to go with their more supercharged line when they're trailing in a game. When you move Marchand up to that top line, I mean, that second line is going to look pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know, like DeBrusque took a step forward last year. Finally, it seemed like. I still don't know if he's where people want him to be at. Let's put it that way. Zaka as well had a better year than we've kind of seen out of him. Does he take a step back? So it's kind of scary with the expectations of what this team was last year.
Yeah.
Well, and Zacha probably had a great season because he was playing with Hall.
Yeah, I completely
on the third
agree
line.
too.
Like, it was such a mismatch.
And this team has no cap, too, what we talked about before, of kind of that trade dump that they had Chicago with Hall and Foligno involved in that, too. So that freed up $6 million. They re-signed Swayman to another year deal. My biggest thing, too, was if they look at Allmark after this year and say, hey, he's kind of fallen off, because he has had up and down swings throughout his entire career. And last year is phenomenal, no doubt. But if he kind of falls off this year, do they try to use him as a trade piece almost to try to get some picks, or just try to build some depth almost? Because it looks like Swayman is due for a payday. If he plays well again this year with a 1-year deal, he's either going to want to be the main guy or go somewhere else where he is. And he can be a number one goalie. He's proven it, I think, in the past kind of 2 years.
Yep.
So,
I mean, there's a contender out west that probably would love to get either of these goalies, and it still seems very suspicious that they haven't added anyone yet. So maybe there's some sort of handshake deal that if the season doesn't start off well, they'll ring up each other. I don't know. You just look on this on paper, and it looks terrible outside of the blue line and obviously goaltending. You got a superstar in Pasta. Marchand's 1 more year older. That has he ever played a season without Bergeron? So who knows what that looks like? It's shocking to me that they don't have worse odds to win the division, or their point totals aren't lower though.
Their point totals too high, in my opinion. 105.
Yes. I mean,
I don't think this team, I think maybe 90, maybe 95, 96, 100 points in this division, which got a whole lot better and has a few young teams kind of starting to contend and take over that role. I don't think this team comes near 100 points. While I'm not saying they won't make the playoffs, because they probably can with the roster that they have if they play this show. Yeah. I completely agree. I'm not really high on this team at all, but I mean, they proved it last year too. We kind of saw that lineup and be like, well, maybe they're going to struggle to start the season. And then we saw what they did. It's a very interesting team to watch in terms of this season, of how they progress. If they start slow, what actually happens with this roster moving forward.
Yep, I agree. And, this is kind of what we were saying last year, is with the injuries that we thought they were going to start slow, but Marchand came back way earlier than expected. And I think he had 3 or 4 points his first game. So it wasn't even like he had a nagging injury. McAvoy was supposed to come back in December, January. He came back way early. This isn't the case this time, though. I mean, what's on paper right now is the team that's going into the season. There's nobody on IR that's coming back up. There's no cap room to get better. I mean, it's really what you see is what you get. So yeah, this has got to be an unders team to survive. And I think they're in the hardest division in the league. So teams that they were able to beat up on, I did a whole article on this, and I'll be dropping it soon, about the under here. And I wrote it a couple months ago, even before Krejci decided to not come back. Yeah. And I don't think the line has moved much. I think it was that they beat Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo. So the 3 teams that are kind of the risers in this division. I think they split the series with Ottawa, and then maybe only lost to Detroit once and swept Buffalo or something like that. That's not going to happen this year.
No. No, not at all here. And I'm trying to look too to see. So their season points total was 105.5. We mentioned that before. To miss the playoffs, plus 235.
Which is mind-boggling to me. Yeah, I will take that.
Difficult.
I mean, I mean, we were just talking about the Metro having a lot of great teams. I mean, we can keep on talking about this division and count the teams that seem like playoff teams, excluding Boston, and then you have to throw in Jersey, Carolina, obviously, probably the Rangers, probably Pittsburgh, maybe the Capitals even.
I'd say the Islanders over the Capitals.
The Islanders, yeah. And that's not including the Buffalo, Ottawa,
5.
Detroit trio.
Yeah, that's 5 over there. And then you go to the Atlantic and you look at, let's say Toronto's probably going to Toronto. Florida. Tampa Bay, even despite Vasilevsky. That's where it gets interesting. This is where the whole division comes into a second tier of you have Tampa Bay, Boston almost, that you can say, with just based off their ability to shut down teams that they've shown. Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, even in that mix as well, in terms of maybe one of those teams takes a step forward this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a division to watch.
Oh, yeah. This one would be a good one to live bet through. Well, see, I think you really only get division winner, so.
Yeah,
and I really think that's between two teams, and there is one that you can get a lot of value on that. I think, if I know my alphabet right, we'll be talking in 3 more. So,
yeah, Franco. Any thoughts here? Are you leaning under on this team, or are you kind of?
I would lean under. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I thought they were okay last year when we're looking at them preseason, even despite the injuries. This year, I'm out. I just can't see it. Marchand's had some injury issues as well the last few years. So, I mean, are you going to get 82 games out of him? I don't think that's going to happen. Last year was historic for this team. I don't see it happening again.
Yeah.
No. You know what? And there's always the argument of like, what if this team's best player is out? And it's like, of course, they're going to not play as well. Like, they're not going to win as many games. If Toronto loses Matthews, they're not going to win as many games as if they had Matthews in. The scary thing with this lineup is if they lose Charlie Coyle, what happens? We're not even talking about
it gets gross.
I mean, if they lose Pasta, obviously, like, no duh, they're going to be worse. But the fact that they may lose an extra 5 games because of Charlie Coyle being out long term, if it happens, is a scary thought.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That could really be bad. Any other thoughts here on this Bruins team here?
Good luck, bees.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'll be interesting to see what this team does going forward. I think that's the main thing. If you're a fan of this team, do you just commit to the rebuild and start moving on from these veterans, or do you try to do like a retool, as they say, and move a few pieces and try to keep the run going? It's a tough decision when you're in this position like this with a few of the veteran pieces that are still superstars in this league, like Pasta, Marchand.
And then McAvoy could get a healthy return, or maybe you rebuild around him as your kind of centerpiece and Swayman. But Lindholm would get a great return. Yeah, I mean, they got plenty of pieces to start piling up picks, but they've depleted that prospect pool, so there's nothing really coming up that's exciting either. So I know what I would do.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's now head to Buffalo here for this exciting team he got with a bunch of young talent too. As a Sabres fan, I think this is the most excited I've been for a season in 11, 12 years. I can't wait. I absolutely love this roster. Devin Levi, I think, pretty much saved our franchise at this point. If we had to go through one more shit goalie, I think the fans would have lost it. It has been so
you
bad.
You're counting the chickens before they hatch, my friend.
One more year. You don't want another year of Craig Anderson, man? Come on.
Anderson, wish him well on retirement and everything. UPL is going to be another issue. Why we didn't get depth that's kind of going to be a major issue for this team. Is UPL has played preseason games and has looked bad, like Aaron Dell bad. He's massive, and every single shot he just backs into the crease on. It's not good. Good news is Clifton, Eric Johnson, and then even the prospect Ryan Johnson, who's looked phenomenal in the preseason, at least kind of gives us hope with that defensive core here. Dahlin's deal is going to be interesting to see what he gets. Rumored at around 8, I think. Signing Samuelson for a long-term deal is nice, and I think the pairing, he was pretty much tied to Dahlin last year, which Dahlin obviously took a step forward last year, but I think Samuelson now being free to not necessarily provide those kind of reassurance. He was basically Dahlin's babysitter, it felt like at times. Dahlin would just go whatever and would leave Samuelson back 2-on-1s, pretty much odd man rushes the entire time. First line stays intact of Skinner, Thompson, and Tuch, phenomenal. Tuch was pretty much the starting point of rebuilding the Sabres, of someone who actually wanted to be here from the area, kind of agreed to the rebuild for this team here too. Krebs has started to step up. Middlestat, who's been a rumored trade piece for the past few years before last year, kind of stepped up. Olofsson, still not sure what we're going to do with him. I think he's got to go because there's too many prospects here. Zach Benson's still on the roster with a week to go.
Yeah,
and he's looked phenomenal.
He looks great.
Is he going to stay? Like, what's the thought there?
Sucks that he has to go back to juniors, so it's not like he can go back to the AHL.
Yeah, it's a tough decision when you have a guy like that, right? You have to decide whether you want to start him in or just send him back.
Well, the good news is
this team.
The good news is he gets to play with another Buffalo prospect, Savoy, in Winnipeg, or I guess they moved. They're in Washington now. So he'll be able to at least develop with a guy he could essentially be playing with in the big leagues next year. So those situations are always a little bit better. And obviously he'd probably be on the World Junior roster. So he's got some big moments if he does get sent back. But man, you guys are stacked, Gates. It's exciting. It kind of feels like the year before Jersey really blew up, but that year they were still a bottom 5-6-ish team, and I don't see that happening with Buffalo. I feel like they're a little bit further along than Jersey was that year.
It's crazy too because Jack Quinn's not even on this team right now because of the injury. So like it gets even better when you add him to this lineup. I mean, he looked great last year.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'm concerned about right now is Benson has been playing on that top line with Thompson and Skinner. Tuch really hasn't been playing. And there's rumors that those Kane rumors of they're just waiting to slot Kane in there, basically take Benson's spot, which terrifies me because there's too much talent, young talent that needs to develop properly on this roster that has chances to do so, that we can rotate. Even if Peterka, who kind of was better last year, looked decent and showed some flashes. I mean, but there's so many guys you can rotate in this lineup. I just don't see why they would ever bring him back or bring him to the Sabres. This team's just not exactly what they need at all.
And it's not going to help their defensive play either, a guy like Kane. I mean, he's literally a guy that just is all offense at this point in his career. He's like a massive negative in the defensive end of the ice. And that's been a problem with Buffalo in general in the last few years, right? Like, I don't get why you would add a guy like him as much as the excitement and the name value he brings. But I don't know. I feel like this team does need a veteran.
Poso signed for a 1-year deal. I think this is his curtain call of trying to push this team into the playoffs, get him some experience, and then he's going to ride off into the sunset. I think that's kind of the ultimate. If everything goes well for this team, they sneak in the playoffs, even if they get bounced in the first round, just some sort of experience, see what type of roster we have, how we stack up in the playoffs, because we don't have much physicality at all on this roster by any means. So I think that's going to be
Greenway is like your biggest
Gergensons, who was a first-round pick. Yeah, is like now we're on our fourth line. So it's Tyson Jost. I mean, there's not many big bodies here that can go if they start to go after. My biggest concern here is the second pairing of Yoki Haru and Owen Power. Power.
And, I mean, again, the expectation should be just miss the playoffs or get in. And with Tampa looking a little bit weaker now, I would rather see Power getting a good amount of minutes. And I mean, EJ could always move up too if needed, right? These aren't locked in yet.
No, I'd rather have Ryan Johnson on the team than
Power.
Yoki.
You'd rather have Power get those minutes, so you don't want to put him on that third pair. And like in reality, I think this year's a big year to get all these guys minutes. I mean that's what it comes down to, right? See what you have in them, get them real NHL ice time in important games, and see if these guys take that next step. I mean, I guess that's your biggest question, right? Is Cousins for real? Will Paterka take another step? Is Milstead for real now, or is he going to turn back into a pumpkin?
Yeah, can Levi play a full season?
Yeah, I mean that's massive.
Yeah,
that's massive. It's hard, man.
Yeah, there's 15 questions with this team too, and obviously, if everything works out, I think they will make the playoffs. I mean, they missed it by a point last year. When you think about it, and that game versus Florida where they lost 2-1 was pretty much the deciding factor, which was like 3 games to go. So, talented roster. I think it's playoffs pretty much from a Sabres fan perspective, and I think everyone around the team is playoffs or bust this year, which obviously sounds optimistic, but I think this team can sneak in there, especially with the news of Vasilevsky out. I think they have to start strong here and take advantage of any points they can build on this Tampa Bay roster, because once he comes back, it's going to be tough.
And don't forget, you can always add. You got tons of picks, tons of prospects. I mean, do you really need
space?
Do you really need Milstead or Quinn when you have Benson and Savoy coming up? Yeah.
Do we need Greenway, Olofsson? I mean, the list can go on and on.
Yeah.
Do we need Krebs?
Look,
there's 5 disposable pieces on this roster right now in terms of if other guys, prospects step up. So, which I do like, is the first time we actually have depth and we're not just throwing out a roster that's half AHL talent.
Yeah.
With Aaron Dell in that.
Yep.
Yeah. So they step up.
It's exciting. I mean, it's a good time to be a fan of this team. I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for you, for real.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Now, what is the point total?
92.5. I think they had 91 last year.
That's like the same thing as that Calgary one. It's 1 point off with new coaching and I guess their roster may not be necessarily better, but 1 point difference for a much better team. Give me that all day.
Yeah. Be over as well.
Yeah. I think, like I said, too, the goalie comparison too, because if Levi does make it through the season and he's been great in the preseason, shown what he can do. Our goaltender last year, the rotation of Comrie, UPL, and Anderson was so bad at some points. It was so bad. And then Levi comes in and now it's 3-2 games. It changed the entire dynamic of this team of providing someone that can at least stop a puck. So I love the over here. I think they make the playoffs as well. I'm not sure what that is. I mean,
that
obviously
may be a nice look too, instead of doing the over.
Minus 120
to make the playoffs. But and what's the point at odds wise?
92.5
for
92.5 minus 122 on FanDuel.
Give me the points any day, because
I agree.
It's a tight enough race and they just miss it again, they may have 95 points and miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So who are books thinking isn't going to make it then?
Let's keep on talking and find out.
That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild.
Yeah. All right, now
maybe they think 5. Maybe they think 5 in the Metro.
Yeah.
But even now, I mean, they're thinking Boston's going to make it.
Yeah,
stay Boston. Crazy odds.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather back this team than Boston.
Oh, 100%.
It's scarier because they're younger, but
they aren't going to trade at major pieces too, though, because if worse comes to worse, they try to get some more free agents. Maybe trade away guys like Olofsson with picks and maybe some prospects that they may not have room for anymore to upgrade. You're not worried about them trading their superstar goalie.
No, you have young guys who are competing to make a roster with 5 other guys. Like, this team's, I think it's 92.5. I absolutely love it. All right, Detroit here, another interesting team here who's kind of in the mix here. They ended their playoff, or they haven't been back to the playoffs, or what did they? No, they ended their streak last year. Yeah, they haven't made it since 2017. I'm all over the place. Few key acquisitions here. They bring in DeBrincat too, which I think improves this lineup. Pretty much
He's on a team. He'll actually want to play for them too. So
yeah, right. Bring in Comfer, 5 years, 25 mil.
Yeah.
That's a nice one as well.
I'm out on that.
You know, it would have been fine if they didn't add Kopp last year.
Yeah,
They have
okay, that's a fair
they
point.
have so many of the same guy on this team.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Justin Hall, they added 3 years, 10 mil.
Terrible.
Yeah, interesting goalie acquisitions too with Leon and Reimer. Leon's on a 2-year deal, Reimer's on a 1-year deal. I mean, I guess the prospect pool is pretty slim in terms of goalies exactly, but they obviously lost to Jelkovic, but pretty interesting here in terms of this team. I don't really know. Betzky, are you high on this team this year?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Now, it's one of those weird mixes where, I mean, it looks like a fucking expansion team. So maybe it'll be enough weird pieces coming together to make it work. But I'm really concerned that ownership is saying we need to start selling more tickets. We need to start showing improvement, or you're out, Yzerman. And they're not going to allow him to do what he really needs to be doing, which is building through the draft still, because it's starting to have shades of Buffalo's first rebuild or Arizona's first rebuild, where some of the players are kind of making it through that and some are just like not living up to expectations, and it's like wasted draft picks. You know, the Alexander Nylander one comes to mind, or Brandon Perlini for both of our teams. You look at kind of the first couple picks with Zadina and Rasmussen for Detroit's rebuild. It just didn't start off right, and then they never really got those top tier picks because they just kept on getting pushed back in the lotto. And now you're just throwing Band-Aids on this roster to me. So it's like, what, your premium guy is Raymond, I guess Larkin, who's getting older, not too old yet.
He's only 27, believe it or not.
That's kind of crazy, but
yeah, this could be a crazy take, but it seems like almost what the Sharks did this year of just bringing in veterans for like 1 year. But Detroit's obviously a much better team, but it seems like San Jose basically bringing in veterans for a year when they should just be rebuilding.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I mean, obviously Detroit's roster is better, but
yeah, but
these pieces block any young guys from getting any kind of minutes either. I mean, like that guy Berggren had some flashes last year, and now he's just buried on the fourth line. So, see you later. We'll never see you again. Let's run back all these vets that aren't really going to bring much to the table. I don't understand it.
I'm in the same boat, and maybe they have a better record for it, but long term, I do not love what they're doing. And I mean, they keep on kind of drafting kind of guys that have low ceilings in my mind. I mean, Edvinsson and Seider could be a hell of a duo, but there's two long-term 2C? And if he's one of their prospects, when the hell is he going to get a chance to play?
Yeah.
When Kopp's 5-year deal runs out, or Comfort's 5-year deal?
Yeah, I don't get that signing. Like, what? There was a lot of hype around Comfer and his like face-off percentage last year, but like, what else does this guy bring to the table? I mean, he got bumped up to a top line with McKinnon, and it was like barely productive.
Yep.
I mean, what is the draw of JT Comfer? I don't really understand. And why are you going to sign him to this massive contract? I don't get that signing at all. And he's 28.
Yeah, do you think he can put up 50 points in the third line to like kind of make his deal worth it? No. It's a really interesting pickup. You're right. I mean, I think their third pair D did improve with Gossesbrier and Hall. I think that improved slightly, which is good news. Husso, obviously question mark in net here. He's shown flashes, but he's also been terrible at points too. Reimer is a backup. Another question mark there as well. If Husso goes down, do they have Leon and Reimer?
Yeah, I don't get why they signed Reimer either. I'd rather just run Alex Lyon out there. I don't really. I mean, Reimer's been pretty bad for the last 2 years at least, I would say. I mean, I know San Jose is a pretty bad team in front of them, but I mean, this blue line's not that great either. That third pairing scares me a little bit. I mean, I like what Ghost brings on the offensive side of the ice, but I mean, he's a defensive liability. And then you got Justin Hull as well, who's absolutely a defensive liability. Petrie's getting up there in age at this point. How old is he? At 35. I mean, I guess he's still got a little bit left. Ben Sherratt, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really like what. I don't really understand the direction of this team. Is what like it really comes down to. I get the signing with DeBrincat if he wanted to be there. Maybe he
for sure
brings a little bit more juice to this team, and I think that top line looks kind of exciting in a way. But I don't know. Everything else seems just kind of like they're just kind of throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. Kind of.
Yes, they paid $5 million each, pretty much for second, third line center. Kopp had 9 goals last year for this team. And Confer had a decent year in 2022, but I mean, it seems like they just overpaid on both those guys for what? For 5 years of just mediocrity.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yep, this is one of the worst spots you can be in for too long. This is one of those teams that really feels like a betting black hole. I mean, Larkin shots at home, I think it was, or maybe he was on a road dog, I forget which, but that was pretty much the only guy you could rely on last season, and it feels like now we got DeBrincat as a second option, but maybe that's going to eat away from Larkin, and now you're still stuck with one guy you feel safe betting on. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to ride like Raymond points or like some of these other guys, depth guys points occasionally, and you just get hosed every time. And they'd still only be like plus 105. Kubalik was all right for a minute.
Was streaky for a minute there, but yeah, I don't know.
Their first power play is interesting, which could be a kind of a niche target zone here if this does end up working out of Perron, Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat, Sider.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not a bad first power play. And if they get going, I feel like the sneaky play would be to target their power play points, especially with Larkin.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's a smart angle, but
who knows what this team could blow up in a second.
I mean, what if Raymond only is another 50, 60-point guy? You're coming out of a rebuild that started in 2017 was the first time they missed the playoffs since the Simpsons began.
Yep.
So you're starting from 6-year rebuild, and you have a top defensive kind of two-way defenseman and Sider. Maybe last year he looked pretty good, but not.
There's not much else as far as like long term. Like looking at this long term, I'm not like that excited.
If Raymond doesn't put up like a 70 point
season.
Now if he goes ham this year and figures it out, now you're starting to look a little bit better. But Joe Veleno, what a waste of opportunity. That's a guy who should be working up from 3C to potentially be a 2C, and he's just still stuck on the fourth line because Comfer and Kopp are ahead of him forever.
The next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only 20. He's only 23, and he's just like you said, buried.
Yep. Fun times. God. Guys are playing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just maybe like you said, it's pressure from the front office telling them to get something done, and this feels like a forced attempt to push forward, and it just doesn't look pretty, to be honest.
Little Caesar's cheesy bread sales must be down.
So their point total is 86.5, meaning this team's going to improve. So free cheesy bread night, I guess they're hoping for. Pack the stadium. Is this team 7 points better than they were last year?
Maybe.
No, my opinion.
I
No.
don't know.
Is to break
86 feels fair. 86,
feel
yeah,
like-
but like it's not just DeBrincat though. It's DeBrincat minus Kubalik. So he has to be a full Kubalik better, than what he brings too.
And you still, I mean, last year they were 7th in this division, 80 points, and you look at Boston, maybe a downcrease from their 135 points, most likely, I'd say.
Cool,
Yeah,
so maybe they won't get
slightly
swept
less.
by
Yeah,
them this year.
yeah.
I still think
Toronto's
Boston
still
can beat up
there.
on this team, man. Like even
Mhm.
as bad as even as much as we're down on them,
Yeah.
but
They match
is
up
this
great
team gonna
against this
score?
team.
Is this team gonna score on Boston?
No.
Exactly. The
They're just gonna
Bruins,
shut down our
Detroit
first line.
unders.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Another angle you can look at here. Betzky,
Like
what
you
do
said, betting black hole for this team. Like I just ignore them almost.
I don't want to take the over or under either. That line's pretty damn sharp, it feels. So I'm
I can see them
I guess I
landing on
lean
86.
the over, I guess. Them. But
Yeah,
I
but you
don't
don't
want
feel
to
good
touch it.
about it.
Okay. Lean.
Yeah, I mean,
you're like underwear
it
lean here. I'm not
feels-
fucking betting this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it feels low, but I can see it landing on 86 exactly. So
Totally.
I don't want either side of it really.
Yep.
All right. Florida's up next year. The Cinderella team last year, obviously making a run at the Stanley Cup, falling short here. Pretty much opposite sides that started in that trade, the Huberdeau trade. Flames went one way, Florida went the other, and I think most people had it in reverse of the Flames finally found some pieces to kind of make a push, and Florida was left kind of high and dry, and that was the exact opposite of what happened here. Even with that, they still make a bunch of offseason moves here. Bringing in Ekman Larson, Kulikov, Riley, Rodriguez, a bunch of just depth pieces. It seems like this team just to kind of keep building off them. I like the Rodriguez pickup a lot.
Me too.
Kind of coming from Buffalo, he kind of really found his play style in Pittsburgh, it seemed like, and then just has been kind of improving ever since from this team here. Obviously, they do lose a few guys, but no real big names here for this team. It looks like they're going to kind of run it back here.
There's one that's missing that I think should be interesting in Gudas.
That's a big loss.
Yeah,
He felt like a very heart and soul player for them, and I've had to watch a lot of Oliver Ekman Larson, and the guy can get kind of chippy, and it seems like he knows how to run his mouth. So if he doesn't have anybody to kind of stand up, that was part of what made the Panthers great was the snarl they had, and I definitely think they lost a little bit of it, not too much, but a little bit.
Yeah, interesting the Anaheim signing there too, of 3 years, 12 million there. I mean, you obviously got a great payday here, but it's not going to be a competitive team pretty much at all coming from Florida.
And right now, if you're looking at the daily face-off lineup, I was like, this blue line sucks. And then it's like, oh yeah, Ekblad and Montour are technically on IR right now. So
yeah, but when are they coming back? I was just looking for that right now. I don't see.
I'm not too sure.
So
Montour looks like it's COVID-19 maybe, and Ekblad says day to day.
Expected to miss a start. He'll be back November to January for Montour.
Who? Oh,
Montour.
And then Ekblad's supposed to be longer. So I mean, this team could be behind the 8 ball, like pretty bad to start the year, especially if it's close to the end of November or December that they get these guys back. That's a pretty big loss because this blue line looks pretty disgusting right now. The way it is. I'm not feeling great about, honestly, any of these pairings. Because like Forsling had a great year last year, but you pair him with OEL, like
no.
And then you got Mikkola and Kulikov. I'm not really feeling good about either of them, to be honest with you. Mahura and Riley is not too bad as a third pairing, I guess.
But you're not judging the blue line off of a third pairing.
Yeah, I mean it just doesn't look very good. And then OEL is going to lead your power play, your first power play unit. Does he still have it?
I don't know.
He's kind of fallen into a black hole the last few years.
Yep. I think it was a nice gamble for Florida, just for what
Yeah,
they're
I agree with
pushing
that.
the corner. They didn't have many options, and might as well.
And they're
Go
getting
for
them for
Grand
cheap
Slam.
now.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
not paying what Vancouver is paying them, and
Nope.
and they won't be relying on them like Vancouver was once these guys come back. So
Yep.
How long is Kachuk going to be ready for the start of the season?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't see.
I know he missed some preseason. I don't really see him. He's not on the daily faceoff lineup either. So that's another piece too. And I mean, obviously, Bobrovsky, they pretty much needed him to repeat his success almost from last year's kind of cup run to bail him out, it looks like, with his defensive core to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, is Spencer Knight coming back? Is he back from his sabbatical type thing? There's a lot of question marks with this team right now. Yeah, I mean, is Kachuk 100% too from his injury? Like, if he, daily faceoff has him listed as playing, so, but is he 100% now, or is he still going to have like those lingering concerns with that injury? I don't know about that.
Yeah, you almost look at that top line too to start the year, and for shots on goal, you're just looking at Barkov.
Yeah, and Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rodriguez has had some stretches of it.
And he'll play kind of what Duclair was doing, right? I think Lundell could have a real big step in his progression too. He's only played 2 full seasons.
Yeah, I
and
like
his first season was his true like D1 year. Reinhardt still is a great prop. I mean,
the forward depth still looks good on this team.
Oh yeah.
So in terms of their point total, 98.5 last year. They finished with 92 points.
I would say slam that over if we had a better understanding of Ekblad and Montour's timeline. I also think you got to put in consideration this is a very much a Jekyll and Hyde version of goaltending, but man, if Bob can play well and Spencer Knight looks like the prospect he was originally drafted as, watch out. But if Bob goes full doo-doo mode and Spencer Knight can't figure it out, then it's going to be like a boomerang.
So for your betting approach to start the year with this team, is it pretty much going to be give it 3-4 games and then wait to see how they do? Or are you going to try to attack them in some way early?
I'll probably lean overs, depending on who the opponent is.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
I think shots is still a decent approach too, obviously, with the way the Panthers teams are run.
I think they're going to have to play on the front foot, so to speak, to use a soccer term.
Yeah.
They're going to have to win those high-scoring games with the way this blue line is assembled.
And that's how it was at the start of last season, and then everything started to click for the team, and they were able to kind of rein it back in a little bit, if I remember correctly. I remember shots were great for them last year.
Ladder them up.
Yeah, and I fully intend to do that again.
All right. Let's head to Montreal then. Another interesting team here too. A few trade acquisitions here: Newhook, DeSmith, and Lidstrom, UFAs. No real notable signings here. Re-signed a bunch of their guys, but they did lose, I guess. I'm trying to really think. A Druin, I guess.
Yeah, they traded
Newhook. Never really done much for them. Dvorsky's out on IR for a little bit. Yeah, Hoffman, who cares?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Young team. I mean, interesting team for sure. It feels like they have the talent there. It's just, can they put it together?
Yeah, they feel kind of like the Coyotes of the East in a way. But maybe a little less impressive.
Without
not to be the complete homer. Yeah. Without goalie, a worse blue line.
Yeah.
And maybe not as promising forwards.
Does Slafkovsky take that step forward, I guess? That
would be a big one. Harvey Pernard was a fun little prop for the end of the season, and we can see if he keeps on going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that top line of what's their top line here of Caulfield, Suzuki, Monahan.
Looks pretty decent on paper. Maybe Slavkovsky moves up. Maybe Pernard moves up. I mean, Gallagher, Josh Anderson, Newhook as a third line looks really interesting to me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I wouldn't be totally surprised if one of those guys ends up being on the line with Caulfield.
Yeah,
I
mean,
see
Anderson moving back up there.
Yeah, Newhook's only 22 as well.
Yeah, first round draft pick too. I think it was like 22nd overall or so in 2019 by Colorado.
Yeah, I think both of them needed a change of scenery, both him and Drouin.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Maybe it'll be a good thing for both of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this defensive core here?
Well, Matheson had a great season, and don't sleep on him for shots on goal because, man, that was a good ride. Holy cow. Always undervalued, always hit it.
Like plus money every time.
Yeah. Gooley was looking really good for a little bit last season. And then what's our friends with the X name?
Jack Eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some moments too. I think overall as a unit, this looks pretty weak.
Yeah, it's subpar for sure.
Yeah. But don't they have that kid that's in college that may be getting pulled up? I guess we'd probably be seeing him listed here at this point.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't just keep everybody, the younger players on this team.
Oh, you know what? He probably can't be at training camp if he's signed to an NCAA team, and then that means he's probably not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think the Edmondson loss is pretty big for this blue line.
I do too.
It makes it look a lot less impressive.
Yeah.
Not that it ever was impressive, but it's definitely scarier.
Lane Hudson is who I was trying to think of.
Okay.
But let me see if sounds like he's probably going to be back in college.
I think the biggest question is Slavkovsky, right? Like power forward type guys tend to take a little bit of time to develop. So, and he kind of missed almost all last year. So it could be another year of him just not doing much, which will disappoint fans and everybody will be calling him a bust and all that fun stuff. But I think we got to, as fans of this game, be a little patient with a guy like him. I think in 2 years, we're going to be talking about him being a damn good player on this team. And they have so many young pieces that this could be a good team in a few more years. There's not there yet. I mean, Jake Allen and Montembeau is just kind of disgusting for your goalie from them.
Yeah, I just pulled out their stats too. And I guess Montembeau, .901 save percentage, 3.42 GAA. Jake Allen, .891 save percentage, 3.55 GAA.
Overs.
Yep. Weak defensive core, weak goalies, offense that can put pucks in the back of the net. This team again just screams overs.
Yeah, I would have to say so.
Yeah, it was
last year. Hunting down the team total on the other side too would be probably pretty smart, just in case this team gets a little anemic with the offense.
What do you think they finished last year in terms of over-unders?
I would have thought they would have been an over team, but I feel like their offense wasn't that good, especially when they lost Caulfield.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So maybe 35 over?
Even 38 each side. Yeah,
okay.
A few pushes in there. But yeah, interesting. You'd figure, I guess they had that downturn too where they just weren't scoring at all.
Yeah.
And they were just getting run out of the building. So,
yeah.
In terms of a team total here, 72.5. They have 68 points last year. So an increase of 5 points here, this team.
I like that.
Mine seems right on it.
It does. It does a little bit, but
I can see like 73, 74 points. It's a little too tight.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard because that goaltending is just so bad. And it's not like they have anything coming in. They're not going to like add a goalie. So
why not? Why not get Swayman? No, they won't be trading with their division rival, the Bees, but
Yeah, they hate each other.
This is a team that could be looking to upgrade and start to win a little bit too. So I don't know.
You said the Coyotes to the East.
Yeah,
There's Milka.
now, yeah, maybe.
It's going to be interesting to watch this team, especially this young core, try to develop an identity this year. I think, especially, I mean, the goaltenders. Just can they put any sort of acceptable product on the ice of stopping if they can allow less than 3 goals a night, I think they give this team a chance to win. It seems like.
You know what? You know who's an interesting goalie for them if they really want to try to make that push, or for Columbus in the same vein, Binnington. Both could probably fit him under the cap. Both Seattle or St. Louis would probably pay to get rid of Binnington if he's awful again, and St. Louis is ready to commit to a rebuild. Or
I could see it.
Yeah. Or that I forget who their kid goaltender is. Maybe if he starts taking the reins, Binnington maybe cut loose, and that guy could maybe use a change of scenery too. I wonder how he'd handle the French media though.
Yeah. I mean, they still have Carey Price on the books too.
Oh yeah. Never mind. I don't know how much cap space they actually have. I forgot about.
Is he just done, right? Like, what's his deal?
You saw him at the draft, right?
Yeah, he's on long-term IR. They said if he goes on long-term IR this year, it'll free up roughly $6 million cap space.
Yeah, 10.5 mil for him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he goes on long-term IR, that means he doesn't make 10.5 million. Is that right?
He's got to get something though, or is his contract?
I think the
contract is off the books.
Yeah, and then they pay the insurance of 6.5. I think it is. So whatever that, I forget exactly how it works, but
yeah,
yeah.
Anything else here on Montreal, or you want to move to your team here, Betzky?
Yeah, they're going to be interesting. I'm excited to see how this team develop. I'm excited to see how it looks when they start integrating more of these kids too. It seems like they are kind of committing to some of these core pieces like Suzuki and Caulfield, maybe a little bit too early, but time will tell. I do like taking the gambles on Newhook and Kirby Dach and seeing if those two can develop a little bit, because those are both pretty decent looking draft picks at the time. But this could be one of those situations kind of like Detroit where the wheels keep on spinning if they can't figure it out soon.
It seems like they have a better direction of at least committing to the rebuild than Detroit, of trying to stuff pieces into their second and third lines. You know,
they didn't add a bunch of old guys to block all the young guys. Like, let the guys play, man.
Yep. In fact, they got rid of some of them, like Mike Hoffman and Druin.
Yeah. They're moving in the right direction. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
All right, Ottawa here up next. Not really. I mean, 2 trade acquisitions in Kubalik and Zabrano. UFA signings, Korpisalo, 5 years, $20 million here. Tarasenko, 1 year, $5 million. This roster is improving. I think obviously people had high hopes for them last year as kind of a breakout team, but it seems like they're lined up in the right direction here, especially with this roster. Just looking at it, it's very talented. Any thoughts on this team, Franco? We'll start with you here.
Yeah, so on paper right now it looks great, right? But I actually saw something come out earlier today about Josh Norris potentially not being ready. And that makes things a little bit more interesting here, because I think maybe a day or two ago we were all kind of thinking he's back and we're good to go. He's going to be your second line center. Now you have 2 very good top lines with him on there. Your third line looks pretty feisty as well. But now if you take him out of the mix here and now you have to move Pinto up, it's not looking as impressive as as it does right now. So we'll see what happens there. That's obviously a question mark, but I mean, we're less than a week away, and now we get a news article coming out saying that there's question marks about whether he's going to be ready. It's pretty big news for this team. I do like the addition of Tarasenko. I think everybody was excited when DeBrincat came in, and he kind of just failed to live up to his expectations last year.
Yeah.
He just never looked right. I don't know whether it was confidence or I don't really know.
Desire.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird, man. I mean, he was always that guy that had that just fire for Chicago, and I never saw that last year from him. I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. Like, we bet his shot on goal a ton, I feel like, when he was on Chicago, and last year he was like 4 shots one game, 1 shot the next. So it's like, where is this guy? You know? So I feel like it's a like for like almost getting Tarasenko, and I think he might be. I know he's a little bit older, but I think he might fit this team better as that piece that they thought they were getting last year. So I'm kind of excited with that addition.
Me too. And the other thing wasn't it Drew with DeBrincat for quite a while and Batherson on the top line?
Yeah.
Which to me, it kind of felt like they were forcing the Kane DeBrincat style. But I just, like you mentioned, it wasn't really clicking. And I really like that idea of maybe splitting that up and then having Drew up there on the top line and Tarasenko with Batherson. The nice thing is, even if Norris isn't ready to go and maybe he has a nagging thing, Batherson and Drew can play center to an extent. So you have some backup. But maybe it's not ideal.
This defensive core, well, first of all, Korpisalo, absolutely love that pick from them. Yeah. Pick up, changes their goaltending room completely from last year, provides them with an actual number one, who I think is going to be the key piece for this team this year too. Their defensive core is solid. Really, really solid too. I mean, the question mark too on that third line is what? Brandstrom?
He's serviceable.
I mean, he hasn't exactly lived up to expectations, but still, I think he's 24.
Yeah.
He completely turned this around too. You pair him with Harmonic now. I don't hate that third line defensive pair at all here. This team is going to be good.
The top 2 defensive pairs just look really good to me. I mean, adding Chychrun last year was a phenomenal add.
Yeah.
And Sanderson looks like he's ready to take that next step. I mean, I agree with you 100%. And I think really what came down to last year, like their playoff push, they were in it for a little stretch there. But I mean, they had Talbot was injured, Forsberg was injured. They're running out like Ferguson was his name, I think.
Yeah, I think they went through 4 goalies in 1 month.
Yeah. I mean, that killed their chances. I mean, I know Korpisalo's had his injury issues over the course of his career as well, but I mean, what he showed last year with LA, he looked great, and I think that change of scenery really helped him because I know he had struggled. But yeah, I think it's a perfect addition to this team.
How many goalies do you think started for Ottawa last year? I just pulled it up.
7 or 8, I would guess.
Yeah, 7.
Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, that stretch, like, because I was rooting for them to make the playoffs because I had their wins over or whatever, their points over last year, and it was just like a painful loss. I think I lost by like a 0.5 because they just couldn't close because they had the worst goalies trying to run guys out. Yeah. It's brutal to watch.
Who do you think is a higher point total this year, the Sabres or Ottawa?
Sabres.
Probably Ottawa.
Sabres 92.5, Ottawa 91.5. They had 86 last year. I like it a lot.
I did too.
They're similar in ways. This team has more veterans, I would say, but
this team's scarier if they get to the playoffs than the Sabres are.
I mean, with these point totals, it's like you just need to beat Tampa and Boston twice as many times as you did last season, and you may be able to do that.
Your Boston third and fourth lines are brutal. Center depth obviously is crucial, like terrible. They lost a bunch of key defensemen there. Goaltending's still there. Tampa Bay, Vasilevsky out for 2 to 3 months. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Florida, their top 2 D are out. Kachuk maybe out for the first week or so for them as well. I mean, the 3 big dogs, 3 of the 4 big dogs in this division have gotten worse.
So we have,
or at
we
least
hammer
start the
these
season
teams
off worse, I should say.
We got to hammer these teams early, right? Like these teams, if they don't, they should be saying that right now. They should be licking their chops. All right, we need to get out to a fast start. We need to win these games now to get ahead of these teams early, because once they do get healthy, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah. I was talking with, a side note, I was talking with Franco beforehand. If you're saying the opening line for the opening game, Nashville, Tampa Bay. Nashville's plus 160.
Give me it.
Yeah, we
All
said
day.
the same thing.
All day.
Yeah, and sprinkle on the over as well.
Yeah, or Nashville team total or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is this the last team in the division here?
No, 2 more.
2 more. 2 more here. All right. Tampa Bay up next here. Obviously, as we just mentioned, Vasilevsky out 6 to 8 weeks. Jonas Johansson, going to be the guy they ride with for the first 2 months, has never played more than 9 games in a season.
Love to see it.
I mean, yeah, they bring in Sherry pretty much as kind of their big off-season signing here. Lose Perry, Bolton, Killorn, yeah.
Oh yeah,
PLB, Maroon.
I mean, losing Killorn is huge.
Yep.
Massive.
Yep.
Massive.
I mean, their addition was Jeannot last year at the deadline, right? They signed him to this huge contract, and then they lose Colton and Killorn. I don't really understand it, to be honest.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see how this team does to the start of the year. I mean, in one way you could turn it and say, obviously, I think the main narrative would be their struggle without Vasilevsky, because he is pretty much a main key piece to this team. Or B, kind of what we saw with the Bruins last year. Everyone thinks they're going to be terrible, and they start off hot. But that, I think, is a lesser option just based off the roster talent that Boston had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this team, too, they, like I said, lost a few key pieces, and now their biggest piece of this team almost is gone, too. What are your thoughts on this, Betzky? How are you approaching this team, I guess, to start the season?
I don't feel like I thought enough about their changes, their offseason changes, until the Vasilevsky news, and now I've been looking at it more. And it's eye-opening. I mean, the team, the forward group, which took the most hits, still looks fairly good on paper. I mean, Sherry's a decent top 9 type guy. I mean, you could say 1 for 1 for Colton with him. I thought the Yzerman pickup was interesting. It seemed like he had more opportunities in San Jose and fit there a little bit better, but maybe the full season he fits in a little bit more, and we start to see how this whole thing looks. Luckily for whoever's in that blue line is still damn good, even without Ian Cole. So I do have faith that maybe they can string more wins together than losses while Vasi is out. But if this becomes a thing where it's truly a goaltender issue, they are thrown into the pile of like 4 teams that could be in the same boat. Goaltending is such a weird position in this league right now, because there's maybe 4 elite guys. Then there's this huge group of guys who can have one good season, then terrible next season. Then there's the kind of younger guys that are up and coming that we don't really know how consistent they can be. And then it's like everyone else. And right now, Tampa has 2 everyone else's. And one guy doesn't even have a jersey on Daily Faceoff. It's just a long sleeve white shirt.
I like that one. That's awesome.
It almost feels like the goalie groups are like you have your tier 1s here, and then there's no real tier 2. It's almost a drop off between straight to tier 3.
Cliff.
And somebody from tier 3 and 4 will be in tier 2 because they will have one
At the
of
end of
those
the year,
like outlier
yes.
seasons.
Yeah.
And then usually it means they are probably up for a contract.
Vanasek last year.
Then they get
And then they'll be terrible. The
they'll
next
be
year.
terrible again.
Yep. Pretty much exactly how it went. Like Gibson a few years back, he jumped up to that tier 2. Now he's just stuck in no man's land right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another team to watch. I mean, this division has so many storylines, it feels like, in terms of exciting teams with talent that can go one way or the other to start the year.
Yeah. Power play points, though, is always going to be the angle with Tampa.
They're going to have to score. They're going to have to put up points to win.
I mean, I think that's the angle to go with this team, right? I mean, the pieces are still there for them to score. The forward group still looks pretty damn good, even with the changes. I saw like some lines earlier today on Twitter where Yzerman was on the top line, actually.
Huh.
And if that is the case, that would be very exciting because we saw some flashes from him last year with his shots on goal prop hitting a ton. And then usually when you see a guy like him move to the top line, especially if he's playing with Cooch or Point, usually his point prop is going to be still in the plus money or like close to even money range. So if that's the case, I'm going to be hammering that early on the season. The blue line still looks pretty good. I know it felt like McDonough was a huge loss last year for this team.
Yep.
And I think they're still kind of feeling that. So I mean, they're not going to be able to fill that void. Yeah, I mean, this team just feels like an over team to start the year until Vasi's back. The one thing I pointed out to Gator before we got on was just how truly bad Johansson is. His underlying numbers are pretty bad just in general, but like you can kind of see maybe some arguments towards like a silver lining when you see like last year he played 3 games, he has a 2.1 goals against average, and you're like, oh, maybe he figured something out last year. And it's like, all right, well, let's look at the game logs. He played Anaheim and get 1 goal. Okay, cool. You shut down Anaheim.
Yeah.
But then you get 4 against Ottawa. So, I mean, and you go back another year prior, he had some games where he get 10 goals against Montreal. He got 8 goals to Toronto, 5 against CBJ, another 5 against CBJ. I mean, like, this guy is going to be fun to bet against. So, I mean, I feel bad for Tampa fans, but this guy could be historically bad. And I think you just hammer all the overs you can possibly get until the books get wise to it to start the year.
Unless Hugo Alana felt it's the second coming of Vasi. Yeah, this could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just hammer the overs and enjoy when 5 goals are scored against this team. It's going to be great.
As the great Samuel L. Jackson said in Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts.
Yeah. I think that's all Tampa Bay fans can do and pray that Vasi has a good doctor. I think that's the number one priority right now is his medical care. So
what's the point total here?
I wish I would have seen this a week ago so I could track this of how much the news of Vasilevsky changed this or altered this total. 96.5. So obviously it had to drop from where it was because there's no way this would be their line.
No.
To start the year. It had to be 100 something. Maybe even 105 if Vasilevsky is worth 4 points, which I think he is. You know?
Yeah.
They had 98 last year.
They only had 98 last year? That took a minute to settle.
Yeah, 98 last year. Their point total this year is 96.5. They don't have a starting goaltender for the first 2
Oh,
weeks.
Wow. How much is it to miss the playoffs?
That's probably pretty good.
Yeah, obviously I think that price altered as well, but let's see if I can find this.
Plus 138 to miss the playoffs. Not as good as it should be.
I don't think it's worth it at that.
No. Whoa.
That's way too tight.
I wouldn't touch that either side. I would just another one of those teams you just stay away from, it seems like. And then maybe if you can grab.
I'd rather take the point under.
They have enough offensive talent. They still have Hedman.
Yeah.
Sergachev took a step last year. So, as bad as the goaltending situation is, this team could still be good. And they have the pieces, the veterans that know how to win.
I think for the first few weeks, you target shots on goal with this team too.
Yeah, probably. And it's not like Colorado where last year was like McKinnon and Rantanen and company. They're the supporting cast here, even though they've lost guys like Colton, still like arguably like the best up and comers the league has to offer for third liners.
If Anisimont is on that third line, that's a damn good third line.
Yeah. And Cirelli is a great defensive center. He's probably overpaid, probably not exactly what you're looking for in a 2C, but he's good at not giving up high risk chances. He's good at keeping people honest. He's good at keeping the game under control.
Would he be the Bruins' number one center right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Would Nick Paul? Maybe.
Yes. I think Nick Paul.
Over Zacha, yeah.
I would take
I don't think that's a crazy thing either.
Yeah. That's why you have to look at this team and still think they can win.
Yeah.
Despite the shortcomings in that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see them have Hagel up on the top line and then knock down Stammer with Shirian.
They'll probably do shifting
just to spread it. They do stuff like that too. So yeah. They got that line tight again. Because all it takes is for Vasi to come back healthy and this team going on a tear. We've seen them kind of hibernate before.
I kind of like the over, to be honest. I think 92 is too low. It's
92
scary.
or 96?
96.
Sorry, I thought it was 92. I still think 96 is probably too low. Just because Vasi will be back. And this team just knows how to win.
Yeah, I agree.
The veterans are still there, man.
If that to miss the playoffs was juicier, I would rather sprinkle like a quarter unit on them to miss the playoffs if it was like plus 300 than do
anything over plus 200. I would have taken it.
Yeah, but
yeah, I don't know. Like we just went through Johansson's stats, and they're so bad. I get this team has.
They could add a goalie. There's got to be somebody, man.
Yeah.
You would have to trade someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pretty much have little to no cap room. They'll enter the season just at the cap ceiling after moving Brent Seabrook's contract to long-term injured reserve.
And this isn't a team Boston would trade one of their goalies to if they start slow. You can't do division right. So I'm still trying to figure out all the goalies that are. Veggie or Ingram from Arizona.
One I saw was Vladar potentially, and that would be good enough for me.
He's serviceable for 2 months.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Perfect. Yeah, get him cheap, and there we go. We're good to go. That over looks great if they could get a guy like him.
You figure it's gonna have to include some piece though.
Yeah, for sure. There's always magic that happens with the cap, though. I don't know how these teams
especially with Tampa.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
Yeah. All right. Last team in the Atlantic Division here. Toronto finally beat the curse. Made it past round one of the playoffs last year. In terms of UFA signings, they bring in Klingberg, who I like a lot for their defensive core. I think he's a great addition for them. Reeves, 3 years, $4 million. I guess that's playoff hockey, baby. Just let him loose. Let him loose on the fourth line. Protect those stars. Domi, 1 year, $3 million, probably one of my favorite ones is Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah,
Tyler Bertuzzi feels like almost, oddly enough, like a similar Michael Bunting.
Yeah,
like a Michael Bunting replacement for cheaper.
A little more offensive skill, though. I would say.
Yeah.
I think he's more. Yeah.
From his father played for the Toronto Leafs, and You gotta think he's gonna be really motivated to come out there and turn heads and make some fans. Jake McCabe, full season now, rather than just being a trade deadline pick.
Yeah, I mean, the Bertuzzi pickup. So Bertuzzi was what? Was his contract 1 year, 5.5? And Bunting went to Carolina for 3 years, 13.5. Obviously, but I think Bertuzzi's a better player in terms of just overall hockey sense. He's not going to do the dumb shit that Bunting did.
Yeah,
he does. I mean, we saw Bertuzzi up on the first line at some points during Boston's playoff run last year too, which lasted a week and a half. But he was up there with their top guys. Achari goes to Pittsburgh here. Justin Holl obviously out. And Kerfoot, Arizona, 2 years, $7 million here. I mean, they lost a lot of guys, but I really giving Domi a second chance on this team. I think for 1 year, $3 million, or third chance, fourth chance,
fourth.
Yeah,
Arizona to Montreal to Columbus,
he's
to Chicago, to Dallas.
Yeah,
he's on a
sixth year. Yeah. Yeah, he's seen half the NHL at this rate here.
He's literally seen a fifth of it.
He showed some flashes last year, though. I mean, he looked good.
Oh, Carolina, they're 7.
Wow, it's like Shaq with the rainbow jerseys. Like, I'm sure Domi has enough jerseys from other teams too that he can make the whole rainbow at this rate. Yeah. I mean, this team. Yeah, I like this team a lot.
Me too.
It's interesting too, the goalie situation as well with Samsonov too.
Yeah.
And then Joseph Woolen backup again. Obviously, he's kind of solidified his role per se as the backup role, but I think Samsonov proved last year that he can be a number one and kind of improved his form a little bit, I'd say.
Yep. I think that Klingberg pickup is going to be really interesting. That could really make them have a top blue line, or it could be one of those things that it was a little bit of a waste of money, but it's probably worth the risk. I mean, don't forget, this was the top pairing defenseman for a long time in Dallas. Even though he's a little bit more on the offensive side of things, I think he can bring a little bit more dimension. That they almost went too heavy into the defensive defenseman style of defenseman. Jeez, I said that way too many times last season, and now I think this allows them to kind of pivot back. I know they had Sandin, but I think that was smart to get rid of him before the playoffs, because he was not much of a kind of playoff performer style of player. But Klingberg has a little snarl to him. So it's kind of like the OEL pickup in Florida. Both of these guys are kind of coming off of disastrous seasons last year, both around the same age. Both were top defenders at one point.
Yeah, they brought back Shen at the deadline, right?
They did.
Yeah. I don't think he didn't look great in the playoffs at all from what I saw. But he's now in Nashville, 4 years, $18 million.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Not a bad payday for a guy who's underperformed. Yeah, I got Franco. What are your thoughts on this team too? Because they're interesting. It feels like now that they finally broke through last year, got out of the first round, it seems like, I mean, this team's always had the talent.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's not like, can they do something with it?
This team's been like dunked on for years, right? As being the team that can never get it done, right? I don't know, man. I like the way it looks a lot. I really like what I saw from Matthew Nyes during the playoff run last year and towards the end of the season. I'm really excited if they keep him in the top 2 lines this year. I'm really, really excited to see what he can do. I know he's only 20, but I will certainly be betting his point props and be on him to start the season if he's up in those top 2 lines. So I like that a lot. I'm wondering if Nicholas Robertson's going to be making the team as well. I know Daily Faceoff is showing him, but Cap Friendly's got him on IR. I don't know what's true there. He's another young piece that has shown some flashes. Obviously, he's Jason's brother. So I don't know. This team is funny because it's like they got the veterans, the guys that we know, and the young pieces as well that make it kind of exciting in a way that sprinkle in that little bit of excitement that, like, can these guys take that next step? Can Nyes improve on what he showed last year? Can Robertson kind of finally show out? And like you guys said, the blue line looks better. So I'm excited for this team.
Yeah.
The goaltending looks good. I think Wall can step in if there's issue with Samsonov. So yeah, I like it. I like this team probably to be one of the better teams in this division this year.
Yeah, adding Bertuzzi to that top line with Matthews and Marner, I mean, he obviously can play with them skill-wise too, but it's also another enforcer on that line too, where if anything happens, he's right there. So they really, like, opposing teams usually, when Nylander would jump up on that first line last year, they would get tossed around. You remember, to go after anyone, it seems like. So I like that. And even Robertson too now with Domi and Nylander on that third line, that line could put up points this year. If that line clicks, that's a dangerous third line.
Yeah.
So in terms of a point total here, go back to this one here. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs at 104.5. So right with the Devils.
Yeah, they always have the top teams tighter than the bad teams, I feel.
They had 111 last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like the over here.
I
like
do
the over too.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at this division, this just feels like the best team in the division, at least right now on paper.
And they should be able to get some extra wins in while Tampa's weaker, while Florida's weaker. You know, they want to give it to Florida too.
Oh yeah. And Tampa.
They probably want to give it to Tampa.
Yep.
And then the Boston to show them that they would have been fine if they got to play them.
Yeah, it's almost like the revenge tour maybe this year.
Yeah.
For them. And they just,
oh man.
Can they take the step in the playoffs? I think that's really the question with this team. It's not whether they're going to be good in the regular season. They will.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
they
that.
They open up in Toronto versus Montreal. Then they host Minnesota. Then they host Chicago.
Oh man.
Then they play Florida Thursday, October 19th. So their fourth game of the season, they're at Florida. Then they go play Tampa Bay. So those are
so they can capitalize on
watch too. Yeah, if there's a decent money line on Toronto in either of those games.
Yeah, hammer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to watch out for. It's late October, the 19th and the 21st. Just something to write down in your notebook. All right, here. Anything else to add, or you guys want to go into best bets here?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Betzky, I think you've started us off every time.
Sure.
So might as well close us out here.
I'll do Boston under 105.5. I like Buffalo over 92.5, and then I'm going to take that Toronto over.
All right, Franco.
Toronto over. I'll go with Buffalo over and Boston under.
Nice.
Yes, one mind. Same picks. I like it. All right, so I'm going to switch it up here. I obviously am going to take the Sabres here. I'm also going to take Ottawa over 91.5 there with that one as well. And then for the last one here, yeah, I think I'm going to go off the grid here. Tampa Bay under.
Wow. All right. Good luck.
Yeah, I like it.
I do.
Gotta switch it up here.
I think it's a little bit riskier, but
it's definitely risky. But
yeah, it's a sweat till game 82. Man, there's no unless Johansson starts us off with a few losses. I think I'm sweating that one to the end.
I just can't wait for
I'm still sweating that one.
Hugo to come in and just look like Ottinger.
Oh God.
Hugo all NFL.
Yeah, I guess he was decent in the AHL last year, which who knows what that means, you know? So, all right.
Put it this way, I bet you he's going to get some looks.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to. They're gonna quickly realize, like, oh, okay, this guy. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, shit, he's actually this bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's even going to get looks. I mean, obviously, they're just going to ride Vasilevsky when he comes back, but you still figure he's going to take a few games to recover. And if Vasilevsky goes down again, coming back too early,
done.
Nightmare scenario for that team.
You know, it's funny. I'm looking at Vezina odds right now. Vasilevsky is still plus 800.
I know. They just want people to. They're just hoping people don't read the news. And
that's just crazy, man. I mean, come on.
It's robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Take that, please.
Yeah. You take one thing away from this episode.
Yeah. That's, and we guarantee it.
Yeah.
You won't want the
You won't want that.
God, we're gonna have to refund tickets. Get Venmo requests too if he ends up winning. All right. Season preview done. Next episode, 50th episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
man.
Crazy.
Awesome.
Crazy. Previewing the first games of the NHL season.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun. For that one, exciting. Probably do a live stream. It'll be a quick episode, 10, 20 minutes too. We'll just break down each game, talk about our picks. Obviously, you already know one of our picks in Nashville, money line. So grab that while you can. So I'll ride that one as well.
I'll ride that one as well.
Franco, shout out your socials.
Twitter, Franco the Banker.
Awesome. Betzky.
At Twitter, Gretzky Betskys, and part of the Parlay Science Discord.
Awesome. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Gator Betting and daily articles at the Oddsbreakers. Also, be sure to check out the podcast Twitter at Expected Bets 4. Drop us a follow there. Lot of content coming this NHL season. Be on the lookout for that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you for Game 1 of the NHL.